Good morning, boys and girls. Here I have lesson 8.9, where you're going to take a chance to write algebraic inequalities. That's your objective for today. Yesterday's lesson, we learned all about inequalities and being able to know what they mean, how to find solutions for them. Well, today, you're going to have a word sentence, and using that word sentence, you're going to write them. So here's an example. The highest temperature ever recorded at the South Pole was 8 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the highest temperature. I want you to think about that for a second. 8 degrees is really, really cold. And that's the highest. That's the warmest it's ever been. So you're going to write an inequality to show the temperature in T degrees at the South Pole is less than or equal to 8 degrees Fahrenheit. Meaning you're going to show a rule for how to find the temperature at the South Pole. What are some possible solutions? So think about this logically first. If 8 degrees is the highest temperature, are we ever going to have 10-degree weather at the South Pole? 10-degree weather? 100-degree weather? It's way too hot for the South Pole. Could we have 7-degree weather? Yes. Could we have 6-degree weather? Yes. Is it likely most of this weather came in the negatives, like negative 10-degree weather? Probably. So 8 degrees is our highest. So we're going to look for these words. First of all, if it gives us a variable to use, we're going to use that. So T is the variable they gave us. Write an inequality to show the temperature in T degrees at the South Pole is less than or equal to. There is something I learned yesterday, a symbol to show less than or equal to. Less than or equal to. Remember when we put that little line under it? It means that it could be 8, but it's not going to be bigger than 8. It's going to be less than 8 or equal to 8 degrees. So here's our inequality. T is less than or equal to 8 degrees. And that's all you got to do. So, taking a look at what types of solutions, we said 7 degrees would work. We said that negative 10 degrees would work. But 9 degrees is not less than or equal to 8, so that one does not work. Okay? So that's talking possible solutions. But what you're asked to do here, when it says write an inequality, they just want you to write what that inequality, what that rule really looks like. This is your rule or inequality. Kind of synonyms there, okay? Okay. So here's an example I want you to try. Playworks, which is who Coach Merckx works for, needed to raise more than $10,000 during their fundraiser last year. So here's your instructions. Write an inequality to represent the amount of money they needed to raise. Use M as your variable. So here's your variable. Here's your keywords up here. Go ahead and pause the video, try it. Okay. Hopefully you took your variable first. M is your variable. Now I'm looking for what would be on the other side of my inequality. I have $10,000. Now it said in my story problem that they needed to raise more than $10,000. So M has to be bigger than 10,000. And it does not say they needed to raise at least 10,000 or more than more than or equal to 10,000. They needed to raise more than. So it's not an equal sign. Oops, that was kind of confusing. Okay? You don't have M is greater than or equal to 10,000. It's just M is greater than 10,000. If they would have raised $10,000, that's too small. $10,000 and 1 penny, that's enough. Okay? $12,000, totally fine. $9,000? Nope. They had to raise more than $10,000 during their fundraiser. Not a true story. I just made that one up. Okay? Alright. So, a lot of your homework, you're going to see things like this. There's an example problem. So, on the left side of your notebook, write an inequality for the word sentence. Word sentences is an actual like sentence. Tell what type of numbers the variable can be. Now this is that tricky part. I'm going to show you what that means here. Okay. The weight is less than 3.5 pounds. That's your word sentence. The weight is less than 3.5 pounds. Think about that. Is that pretty big, pretty small? When I have my baby, she's probably going to be about 6 pounds. And here the weight is less than 3.5 pounds. So that's pretty small, smaller than a newborn. Okay? So first of all, we want to write the inequality as it says. Write an inequality. So the weight is less than 3.5 pounds. The weight was 3.5 pounds. To be less than, we want our less than sign. And, whoops, sorry, I messed this up. The weight is our variable. We'll use W. Less than, and then 3.5 pounds. Because whatever the weight might be, whatever variable solution we have here will be our variable. And W must be a blank number. What that means is, what kind of number could W be? It could be any number that is positive. That's our only stipulation, our only rule. It has to be a positive number. Weight can't be a negative number. You can't have negative 6 pounds. It has to be a positive number. So this takes understanding of what weight is. Okay? Could it be a fraction? Yes. Could it be a decimal? Yes. It doesn't have to be a whole number necessarily. It could be. It could be any number, but it has to be a positive number. Now, why we did this, oops, sorry, let me find the right tool here. W must be a positive number. That's because of these instructions. Tell what type of number the variable can be. So if it asks you to do that, then you need something like this answer here. Okay, so we had two answers. We had our inequality, and we had that one here. Okay, two answers for this question. Oh, here's another example. Same instructions. Write an inequality and tell what type of numbers the variable could be. There must be at least 65 police officers on duty, meaning at one time there's got to be at least 65 officers working. There could be 66. There can't be 64. Okay? So the number of police officers we're going to use as P. P is the number of police officers is greater than or equal to 65. So I know that there has to be more or equal to 65. Now, here when it asks us what type of a number could it be, P is a blank number. Well, first of all, P has to be a positive number because we're talking numbers of police officers. Can P equal a fraction? Can you have 66.5 police officers on duty? No. Can you have a decimal? 66.35 police officers on duty? No. So P has to be a whole number. That's part of the rule. P's got to be a whole number here. Because with police officers, you can't have fractions. You can't have decimals. That doesn't work. It's got to be a whole number. So when it says what type of a number, we have to think, well, what kind of police officers? We want to have whole numbers because we're talking people. Okay? Okay, let's go to this next try it problem. To try it, you're going to do this on the right side of your notebook, just as a reminder. You're going to write me an inequality, determine what type of numbers the variables could represent. So, two things again. You have to do the inequality. What type of numbers is it going to be? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it fractions? Is it whole numbers, decimals, or any positive numbers, types of things like that. The mass, which is another word for weight, is less than 5 kilograms. Okay? Go ahead and try this on your own. So the way that I would write this is I would take mass and I would make that my variable of m. It doesn't have to be m. You could have done x, could have done y. You could have done any variable as long as it represents your mass. Is less than 5 kilograms. Okay? I did not do less than or equal to because it did not say less than or equal to. It just said less than 5 kilograms. So, write an inequality, check, we did that. Determine what type of numbers. M can be any positive number. It could be a fraction, it could be a decimal. It just has to be positive because we cannot have a negative number in this situation. So, here are my two answers. Oops, sorry, that was kind of weird. Hopefully you did that one right. Let's try another one. The height is greater than 2.5 meters. Pause the video, try it on your own. Make sure you write this down though, because if you're coming back to look at your notes later, you need to have this part written down, or you're just going to have answers, and what kind of textbook has just answers? You have to have the problem and the solution. So write down the word sentences, and if you haven't done that, you might want to go back, because I'll probably make you go back and write them in, okay? The height is greater than 2.5 meters. Try it. Okay. So what is my variable? We're looking for the height. So that's going to be my variable, the height. Let's use H. Usually I do these in cursive so they don't look like numbers. Is greater than 2.5 meters. There's my write an inequality. Oops, that was supposed to be a check mark. And determine what type of numbers. Can they be negative numbers? Height. Can you have -6 inches tall? No, you can't. So, it can't be negative. Can they be fractions and decimals? Yes. So, we're looking again for H is any positive number. As long as it's positive, it can be H. Okay. And there's my answers. Okay. Now they're going to give it to us backwards. They're going to give us the inequality, and we need to write a word sentence to represent the situation. So n is our variable, our symbol is less than or equal to, and our number is -3. So my word sentence is as simple as the number, which was my variable n, is less than or equal to -3. And that's it. It just wanted me to write a possible word sentence. I could have done this a different way. I could have even done this backwards and said -3 is greater than or equal to n, or the number, but make sure that you have, whichever way you have it, it's the correct inequality. So if I was to reread this, the number is less than or equal to -3, gave me the same inequality, so we're good there. So here's an example for you to try. Write a possible word sentence for this inequality. I'm not going to read it because that can give you a hint. So go ahead and try it. All right. I'm going to put the variable, I could put the number, I could put the example, whatever I want. The variable A is greater than 0.4. And that's all I have to do. Okay. All right, go ahead and try this one. K. Let's decide, actually, sorry, I'll back up a step. I'm going to decide what K could equal, something that's less than -7. Let's do temperature. The temperature, this is just a possible, right? There's lots of possibilities. I'm just doing a possible word sentence. If you want me to check yours, raise your hand, I'll come check it. The temperature is less than -7 degrees. Again, just another possible answer. As long as it's something that could be negative, then you're fine. If you just did the variable K, you're fine. There's lots of different possible word sentences. I just have to check them to make sure that they are possible. Okay? A story problem. Go ahead and try this. Mrs. Twisdale assigns her students to read at least 30 minutes every night. You're going to write an inequality to represent how many minutes her students should read. Let M be the variable for minutes. You have your variable, You have your numbers. You have your what it says in here about greater than or less than or equal to. Go ahead and try it on your own. Okay, hopefully you got this. I'm going to let M represent the number of minutes that my students need to read. And it says that they need to read 30 minutes at least. So M has to be greater than 30 or equal to, meaning you could read 31 minutes, you could read 48 minutes, but you can't read 29 minutes. That's not a possible solution. So, excuse me, M is greater than or equal to 30 is the solution. All right, and the basics, I just have one bonus problem for you to solve. 8F equals 16. Solve the equation. This is just a review, practice, not an inequality. It's from past lessons. Solve this, and then I will check off your work for you. I will give you the answer when I'm going around checking your work. I'm not going to give it to you in the video. Okay, and I hope you guys have a great day of learning. Thanks, boys and girls.